Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth fertile. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath the radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned above the lands. For those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage, let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Many a mother in Australia, when the busy day is done, sends a prayer to the Almighty for the keeping of her son, asking that an angel guide him and bring him safely back. Now we see those prayers are answered on the Owen Stanley track. For they haven't any halos, only holes slashed in their ears, and with faces worked by tattoos, with scratched pin in their hair, bringing back the wounded just as steady as a hearse, using leaves to keep the rain off, as gentle as a nurse. Slowly and carefully, in bed places, on the awful mountain track, and the look upon their faces make us think that Christ was black, not moved to hurt the carried, as they treat him like a saint. It's a picture worth recording that an artist is yet to paint. Many a lad will see his mother, and the husbands, weans and wives, just because the Fuzzy Wuzzys carried them to save their lives. From mortar to machine gun fire, or chance surprise attack, to safety and the care of doctors at the bottom of the track. May the mothers in Australia, when they offer up a prayer, mention those impromptu angels with their fuzzy wuzzy hair. Poem by Sapper H. Brett Barros, 7th Division, Royal Australian Army. This is a photo of Havalalala, who died on the 24th of December 2017. He was the last of the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels. The Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels was not a term given to them out of spite or hate. It was given because of their fuzzy hair and the fact they aided the Australian people so much. In 1942, during the Pacific invasion, the Japanese had built up a force of over 13,500 in the Gona region of Papua, with the intention of invading Port Moresby. The key to the offensive was an overland trail across the Owen Stanley Ranges. The trail ranged from small village of Buna on the north coast of Papua and went up the slopes through Gorari and Ovi to Kokoda. The trail was approximately 100 miles long, 160 kilometers, folded into a series of ridges rising higher and higher to 7,000 feet and then declining again to 3,000 feet. It was covered in thick, dense jungle, short trees, and tangled vines. On the 29th of August, 1942, the Japanese task force broke through the ANZAC lines, forcing the Australians and New Zealanders to return further back to Templeton's Crossing. Eventually the ANZACs were forced to retreat to Mayala. 650 of the ANZACs' lives were lost in this campaign. It is speculated that the number would have been much larger had it not been for the help of the natives of Papua, the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels. As one of the diggers noted, they carried stretchers over seemingly impassable barriers, with their patient reasonably comfortable. The care they gave to patients is magnificent. If night finds the stretchers still on the track, they will find a level spot and build a shelter over the patient. They will make him as comfortable as possible, fetch him water and feed him his food. Regardless of their own needs, they sleep 4 each side of the stretcher, and if the patient moves or requires any attention during the night, this is given instantly. These were the deeds of the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels for us. No known injured soldier that was still alive was ever abandoned by the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels, even during heavy combat. In July 2007, grandsons of the Australian World War II soldiers and grandsons of the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels took part in the Kokoda Challenge. The last of the Angels from the Kokoda track area, Fayola Bakoi, died aged 91 in 2016. He was appointed the village constable in Manari. In the 1950s, he had visited Australia as a guest and returned services league in his later years. The last Fuzzy Wuzzy Angel actually died in 2017 on December 24th, the aforementioned Havala. Were it not for these men, many Australians would not have returned home. Many ANZACs would have not returned home. The Kokoda campaign was one of the bloodiest battles for the ANZACs, and it's not been forgotten until this day. I ask that you remember these men, not just our ANZACs, not just our Australians and New Zealanders, but the men of power, the men and women that aided our soldiers, these natives who took great care of everyone because the Japanese threat was growing. If it were not for these men, many mothers would not have seen their sons again. Last but not least, I'd like to just talk about these 2 memorials. The first is of the Arctic convoys. These hold a particular sort of place in my heart. My grandfather, Leslie Wilkinson, was one of the sailors who took part in these convoys. He received medals from the Russian people for his great deed in aiding Russia stay alive during the war. Now, I don't have any ANZACs in my family. I'm not a native of Australia. I'm from England. But I know without these men, my grandfather may not have been alive. The second is of Tobruk. This, again, is a rather special one for me, because my other grandfather, he would not have taken part in this. He wouldn't have lived past the war without these people. He's the grandfather of my mum's side, who I didn't ever meet because unfortunately he passed before I was born. But this memorial does just again bring home to me how close, how my ancestors fought alongside the Australians in wars that the Australians could have ignored. They didn't. They took part. Without their aid, who knows what would have happened. But thank you to all the ANZACs. Deepest part of my heart, I thank you for all you've done. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat interesting and a little informative. And today of all days, I hope you stop for one moment and thank the ANZACs for all they have done. Because the ANZACs fought in wars they did not need to fight in. Vietnam springs to mind, a war that everybody remembers for the American losses, but nobody really knows about the Australians who fought valiantly in that war. So no matter who you are, where you are, or what you do, please just spare a thought for the ANZACs. But also on this ANZAC Day, let us spare a thought for all of those people who had lost their homes from one invasion, only to have freedom from a second invasion. The people of Papua, the people of Malaya, the people who aided our Australian and New Zealand brothers and sisters. For everybody that helped bring them home, let us spare one moment to think of them, along with the brave young men and women of the Australian and New Zealand Armed Forces. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat interesting as well as heartfelt, and I do hope that you can spare a moment for the forces of our great nation. Thank you and goodbye.